Right now, sitting in your garage or driveway, there's an engine block slowly dying. Not from miles, not from heat, from rust. A creeping, porous, invisible rot that is eating into the metal your entire vehicle depends on. And the mechanic who last touched that engine, the one who charged you $400, $600, maybe over $1,000, knew about a $2 powder that stops it permanently. He chose not to tell you. That powder is called phosphoric acid in its dry citric salt form. And when it is properly applied to ferrous metal, it does not simply clean rust. It chemically converts iron oxide, the rust itself, into iron phosphate, a hard, stable, corrosion-resistant compound that bonds directly to the surface. The rust does not come back. The metal does not need recoating every season. One treatment. Done. The automotive repair industry has known about this since at least 1954, and the reason your mechanic never mentioned it has nothing to do with chemistry and everything to do with cash. Every year, American and British homeowners combined spend upward of $6 billion on rust-related automotive repairs. Engine reconditioning, block resurfacing, premature part replacement, entire engine swaps that never needed to happen. These are not failures of the metal. They are failures of information. Deliberate, sustained, and profitable failures. You're not dealing with an oversight. You're dealing with a system that depends on your ignorance. The corrosion treatment industry, the automotive service sector, and the parts replacement market are three interlocking businesses that all benefit when your engine rusts and you do not know how to stop it for $2. But that changes today. By the end of this, you will know exactly what this compound is, why it works at the molecular level, how to apply it yourself in under an hour, where to buy it for almost nothing, and the one critical mistake that causes this entire method to fail. A mistake that is almost never mentioned, even in the rare corners of the internet where this technique is discussed. Stay with me, because the next part changes everything. The story of phosphoric acid rust conversion does not begin in a garage. It begins in the Second World War. Military engineers on both sides of the conflict were dealing with an existential logistics problem. Iron and steel equipment, vehicles, artillery, naval components, was deteriorating faster than it could be manufactured. Traditional paint systems were failing. Abrasive rust removal was too slow and too labor-intensive at scale. German industrial chemists, working under wartime resource pressure, began investigating chemical phosphatizing as an alternative. They discovered that dilute phosphoric acid reacted directly with iron oxide to produce iron phosphate, a compound that was harder than the original rust, more adherent than most primers, and capable of forming a passive barrier against further oxidation. After the war, this research was absorbed into American industrial practice. By the early 1950s, the automotive manufacturing sector was using phosphatizing baths at the factory level as a pre-paint treatment for entire vehicle bodies. Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, all of them were chemically phosphatizing steel before applying primer. The process was well documented in metallurgical journals by 1954. It was cheap, effective, and scalable. And then something quietly happened. The information stayed inside the factory. The technique was never passed down to service centers, never taught in trade schools, never mentioned in the owner's manual sitting in your glove box. The reason, as several retired automotive engineers have stated in technical interviews, was straightforward. A permanent rust solution at the consumer level destroys a recurring revenue stream at the service level. What they didn't want you to realize is that the same chemistry used to build your car could have been used to preserve it indefinitely for cost measured in cents per application. What I'm about to show you is the part the industry spent decades making sure you'd never find out. The exact application method, the ratio, the surface preparation step that determines whether this works permanently or fails completely. Most people who find this information online stop short of the one detail that makes it stick. Don't. The compound you need is sold under several names. You may see it listed as phosphoric acid solution, rust converter, navel jelly in its gel form, or in its most concentrated and economical form, as dry citric acid and phosphoric acid blended powder. Available from agricultural suppliers, homebrew chemical suppliers, and some hardware stores. The key active component is phosphoric acid at a concentration between 15 and 30% in solution, or its equivalent dry weight when mixed with water. A 500-gram bag of the dry compound costs between $1 and $3 depending on source, and it will treat an entire engine block multiple times over. Here is why it works, stated simply. Rust, iron oxide, Fe2O3, is a porous, crumbling compound. It weakens the metal beneath it and absorbs moisture, which accelerates further corrosion in a self-reinforcing cycle. Phosphoric acid breaks that cycle at the chemical level. When it contacts iron oxide, it converts it into iron phosphate, which is dense, non-porous, and chemically inert to moisture. The surface that was once actively corroding becomes, in effect, sealed. The iron phosphate layer also creates a mildly acidic passive surface that inhibits the electrochemical reactions necessary for further rust formation. You are not removing the rust, you are transforming it into armor. If you have watched this channel grow, you already know this is the kind of information that gets buried. Subscribe now, not because we ask you to, but because what you're learning here is not available in any repair shop, and there is more coming. Now, the application. Step 1, acquire the correct material. Do not buy the cheap aerosol rust converter sprays sold at big box automotive stores. Many of these contain tannin-based compounds or low-concentration phosphoric acid blended with fillers. They will produce a darkened surface that looks treated but does not achieve full iron phosphate conversion. You want either a phosphoric acid solution at 15 to 30% concentration or a dry powder compound that you mix with water yourself. Industrial janitorial suppliers, agricultural cooperatives, and online chemical suppliers are your best sources. Search for phosphoric acid descaler or rust converter concentrate. Expect to pay $2 to $4 for enough material to treat a full engine block. Step 2, surface preparation. And this is the step that determines everything. The phosphoric acid must make direct contact with the iron oxide. If there is loose scale, grease, oil, or paint flaking over the rust, the acid will react with those barriers instead of penetrating to the metal. Before you apply anything, degrease the entire area thoroughly. A water-based degreaser or dish soap in hot water works well. Then dry it completely. Then use a stiff wire brush or coarse sandpaper to remove any loose rust scale. Not all the rust, just the loose, flaking material. The adherent rust, the stuff bonded to the metal surface, stays. That is exactly what the phosphoric acid will convert. This is the warning. Skipping degreasing is the single most common reason this method appears to fail. Oil contamination prevents penetration. The chemistry cannot work through a grease barrier. Step 3, mix your solution. If using dry powder, mix approximately 100 grams per liter of warm water and stir until fully dissolved. If using a pre-mixed solution, use it as directed on the label, but be aware that some commercial products are over-diluted. For heavy rust on an engine block, you want a solution strong enough to foam slightly on contact with the rust surface. That foaming is the conversion reaction occurring. If there is no reaction at all, your solution is too weak. Step 4, apply. Use a brush, sponge, or spray bottle to coat the rusted surface liberally. Allow the solution to remain wet on the surface for a minimum of 20 minutes. On thick rust deposits, reapply as the surface absorbs the solution and begins to dry. You will see the color shift, from orange-red rust to a gray-black or dark purple-gray surface. That color change is the iron phosphate forming. Step 5, neutralize and dry. This is often skipped, and it should not be. Phosphoric acid is mildly corrosive and will continue reacting if left on the metal indefinitely. After the conversion is complete, rinse the area with clean water, allow it to dry fully, and if you intend to paint or prime over it, apply within 48 hours before any ambient moisture can interact with the newly converted surface. Before I wrap up the application detail, there is one more thing about this solution that almost nobody talks about, and it may be the most practically valuable piece of information in this entire documentary. Phosphoric acid rust conversion does not only work on engine blocks. It works on any ferrous metal surface, chassis rails, suspension components, brake brackets, tool surfaces, garden equipment, structural ironwork. The same $2 solution that saves your engine block can prevent you from ever buying a replacement set of garden tools or paying for a chassis inspection again. The coverage area of a single mixed liter of solution is approximately 3 to 4 square feet of heavily rusted surface. One bag of concentrate, treated as a household staple, replaces hundreds of dollars per year in rust-related replacements across every iron and steel object you own. Now consider the comparison. A typical engine block rust treatment at a professional shop, described on invoices as corrosion remediation and surface prep, costs between $300 and $800 depending on region and severity. That price covers labor, proprietary chemical compounds, and the overhead of the shop itself. The chemical cost to the shop for the same treatment industry, purchasing data from automotive chemical suppliers, shows that commercial rust converter solutions are purchased by service centers at approximately $4 to $8 per liter in bulk. The actual active chemical cost of treating your engine block is measured in cents. You're paying $300 to $800 for something that costs cents to perform. The labor component is real, perhaps 45 minutes of actual time. But the markup on the chemistry itself is not an economic reality. It is a knowledge asymmetry. Now the before and after picture in real terms. An engine block treated with phosphoric acid solution will show complete color conversion from rust orange to gray-black across all treated surfaces within 30 minutes of application. After full drying and neutralization, the surface is hard, smooth relative to the original rust texture, and matte gray. It accepts primer and paint without additional preparation. When tested with a moisture meter, the treated surface shows significantly lower moisture absorption than untreated rust. The passive iron phosphate layer is doing exactly what the chemistry predicts. Compare this to wire brushing alone. You remove the loose rust, but the adherent rust beneath continues to oxidize. Within 1 season of moisture exposure, the surface that was wire brushed and painted without conversion will show rust bleed through at the edges and beneath any coating applied. The conversion method does not bleed through because there is no living rust left beneath the surface. In climates with road salt, the upper Midwest, the entire northeastern United States, most of the UK, untreated engine block rust doubles in surface coverage approximately every 2 to 3 years under normal operating conditions. A treated surface, properly converted and sealed, shows no measurable oxide regrowth in multi-year field studies conducted by metallurgical preservation researchers. The chemistry, once complete, is stable indefinitely. What you now know is this: a $2 phosphoric acid compound, applied correctly in under an hour, converts active rust into a chemically inert, hard surface coating that does not require retreatment. It is the same chemistry that built your vehicle from the factory, suppressed from consumer knowledge for 7 decades, because the alternative, your return visit to a service center, is worth billions of dollars per year to an industry built on the assumption that you do not know this. But the engine block is only the beginning of this story, because what phosphoric acid conversion reveals about rust is something far more significant than a cleaning method. It reveals that the broader rust prevention market, the annual undercoating services, the rust-proofing packages sold by dealerships at $300 to $500 per vehicle, the chassis spray treatments, the cavity wax injections, operates on a parallel suppression of the same information. And some of those treatments are not just overpriced. Some of them, applied incorrectly, actively trap moisture against the metal they claim to protect, accelerating the exact corrosion they are sold to prevent. How that happens, who knows about it inside the industry, and what the alternative costs, that is a story we are not finished telling. There is something buried in the chemistry of those dealership rust packages that no salesperson will ever mention when they slide the protection plan across the desk. What is it? Stay close,